Good evening and welcome to Boards and Chords. Welcome back to the table. Please pull up a chair and join us. Today we're talking about the game Dixit. Dixit has as a tagline that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it makes the promise of the exploration of imagination, and it delivers beautifully. Sometimes our family tires of long strategic board games, and when that happens we pull out a game like Dixit. And so instead we exercise those right brain muscles for a change, and we engage our imaginations with a board game like this, which we all can enjoy. So how do we play it? Well, Dixit is primarily a card game with a board for scoring. Each player will receive a hand of 6 cards, and they'll refill throughout the game. And they'll also get a number of colored voting tokens according to what color they choose. There can be up to 6 players in the game. These cards will they depict some fanciful scene that seem to spring right out of Grimm's fairy tales. They're very interesting cards and will surely spark the imagination. Each turn will begin as the active player or the storyteller selects one of his cards and gives an audio cue of some sort. It could be a word or a phrase, even a song or something else to the other players, and this will help describe the picture on the card. And so that then each of the other players will look through their hand and they will select one of the cards that they think matches closest to the description or the cue that the storyteller gave. So then they'll turn it face down and hand it in to the storyteller, who will mix it in with his card, shuffle them together, and then display them out along the edges of the board. Reveals them face up, and then each of the other players will take one of their numbered tokens and will use that to vote. They'll put it out declaring that they're ready to vote, and once everybody's ready, then the other players will turn it over and put it next to the card that they've puzzled out that they think is the one that the storyteller chose. So all the other players, again besides the storyteller, vote, and but then we put out the tokens, and then what happens is that the storyteller will disclose which one of the cards actually was his that he picked, and then the round is scored. All the players will then draw a card to get their hands back up to 6, and the next player becomes a storyteller, and the game commences then until either a player reaches 30 points on the board or that the draw deck has fewer cards remaining in it than are needed to refill everybody's hands back up to 6 cards. So let's give an example. One scenario could be that there are 5 players playing Dixit, and let's just say Abby is the active player. She's the storyteller, so she chooses a card from her hand, this one shown here in position 1, giving the clue Candy House, because the picture reminds her of the fairy tale Hansel and Gretel. So the other players each slide over a card that they've selected that they think matches that cue, and Abby shuffles them together and distributes them along the edge of the scoreboard. So then the other players choose their voting tokens, of which one they think is Abby's card and puts it out, and taking their guess and their vote. Whenever that's done, then Abby will announce that actually the one in position 1 here is her card, and so these two of the white and the red players are the ones that's chosen correctly. So in order to get the best score, it's not just enough to have selected the card or foil the other players from getting your card, because you want to choose your clues carefully, because if everybody guesses the card correctly, then the storyteller doesn't get any points. But if just a few of the folks get guess the card correctly, then the storyteller gets more points. So what that means is you want the clues that you choose to be difficult, but not so difficult that nobody gets them. So in this particular case, in this card chosen, if Abby had given the clue a big bad wolf, then probably everybody would have guessed it, and she wouldn't have gotten any points, but everybody else would have. So I hope that makes sense with the example there. So let's talk about the components for a moment. Out of the box, the game comes with a one-page game rules sheet. It's front and back, so you can see and understand that there's really not that much to the game and the rules. It's very simple. There's a scoreboard. There's 84 unique cards that make up the game. There are 36 of these voting tokens colored in 6 different colors, numbered 1 through 6. And each player will take the number of these that there are players. So in the example that I gave, they would not play with the token marker numbered 6, because there was only 5 players. There are also 6 player tokens for the scoreboard that are shaped like bunnies and are in the color that the players have chosen. They correspond to each of the players. So, as we've mentioned before, Dixit is primarily a card game, so the cards are the primary component of the game. And they're the most important piece of the game. So the cards are, in every sense of the word, they're fantastic. The scenes are whimsical and complex, poignant, menacing, and comical at times. They're impressive, imaginative works of arts just in themselves. The game would almost be worth getting even if you just wallpapered a room in it or something, made a Windows desktop wallpaper for your computer. The cards are glossy cardstock, although they are bigger than standard size playing cards. So I'm not sure if you can get sleeves for them or not. This being a card game, it might be worth looking into. The number tokens that you have for the voting, they're not terribly remarkable. They're just square with a number on it and the same background for each of them with a different color. But they're fine. They're thick cardboard printed with the logo on one side and the numbers on the other. They perform their function of voting. They're not flashy, but they are practical. Now, as far as the scoreboard itself, it's okay. It's not great. Half of it is dedicated to being a quick reference for the scoring rules, which is useful, and the other half is a little scoring track. We've found that the spaces that the bunnies stand on for the scoring are a little bit narrow. and so it can sometimes cause difficulty to tell where, in which space the tokens are actually sitting. As far as the tokens themselves, I like the bunnies. I think it makes a great and appropriate scorekeeping token for this kind of game. It's kind of whimsical as well, and I think that's great. Although the design of the bunnies are a little difficult to play with because they don't always stand up very well, and if you bump the table, they're likely to fall over, and then you're going to have a hard time remembering where your piece was standing on the score track. That could be a problem, especially with smaller children who are more likely to bump the table or knock into it to move the pieces accidentally. One thing I do appreciate, another component of the game itself, is the box. Decent component storage for the games is sometimes an issue. You get the components, the pieces of the game when it's new, and you unwrap it, and then you have to put it back in the box at the end of the game, and sometimes that can be trouble to get it back in correctly, or at least in a way that will store well. So the box itself is adequate, provides appropriate storage slot for the pieces of the game, and it even has extra slots for new decks of cards with the mini expansions that are available for Dixit. So we really appreciate this touch very much, and not having to come up with some alternate storage solution or a dozen little baggies or something like that to keep the pieces in. All right, as far as our family goes and as we play it, we tend to play a lot of long, involved, large strategy board games. So Dixit fills a space on our shelves and on our tables at times for a more casual game, and we like this change of pace at times. This kind of game especially seems to appeal to those of our family for whom strategy games aren't necessarily preferred. We have a couple of members of our family like that. Understanding the rules of this game is not difficult. The summary that I gave a few moments ago covers everything but the details of the scoring. And most of the games that we buy, I tend to spend maybe an hour or more reading long rule books with complex rules, taking out the pieces, performing test runs before attempting to teach the rest of the family. I appreciated the simplicity of learning this game, and it's charming, and I think it's part of the reason that the kids enjoyed it from the first time we played it. While we generally enjoy the depth and theme that complex games offer, often they also have a steep learning curve in learning and appreciation of the game. The main part of the charm of this game is the interaction between the pictures on the cards and the association in the minds of the players as they give and consider clues throughout the course of the play. Since the player's hands will have a different mix of the 84 different cards, and since the clues that will occur to the player and be effective among the players depend on the ever-evolving and subjective state of mind and shared reference points of the players, the replayability of this game should last for quite a long time. However, should you start feeling stale about the cards in the base set, expansions are available to play alongside the original deck. I expect we'll be playing this game for many years and buying many expansions for it. The game duration lasts for our family about 45 minutes to an hour. The game box declares 30 minutes for a game, but as with most games, we find the printed time to be too short when played by our family. The designers of Dixit recommend ages 8 and above to fully enjoy and play this game. And I think this seems an appropriate age. Naturally, each kid is different, and every play group and family is going to be different. Therefore, and some pick up and enjoy learning games more than others. So your younger kids may jump right in there and enjoy it just as much as the older ones. However, crafting clues that hold an appropriate level of meaning to the audience of players, as well as being relevant enough, but not too revealing to give it away. That might be challenging to some younger players. I feel like it provides a good growth experience for my kids by encouraging their imaginations and exploring their associative thinking. And of course, with all board games, it should foster family bonds by spending time together playing. Since the gameplay occurs mostly in the imaginations of the players, only their imaginations restrict the content of this game. Most of these cards do offer complex scenes, and some depict images that might disturb younger or more sensitive kids. But as for me, I deem that the intensity of the images is tame and subtle enough for the innocence of my kids, that their healthy imaginations will keep the monsters at bay. I don't think it's going to cause them that much problem. For example, the wolf card in the example we gave earlier is probably one of the most visually intensive. You could also do an internet search for Dixit cards to see other examples. Truly, most of the cards fascinate and amuse rather than be scary. They give lots to trigger the memories and associations. And so it's kind of like a Rorschach test at times to observe what the kids come up with and any of the players as they look at these cards. And now for our strategy section of the show. Well, Dixit is not a strategy game. And so since it's mostly subjective and kind of part of the imagination of the players, there's not a lot to say as far as forming a strategy. It's a game of social interaction and shared experiences and perceptions. The tips that I can give you for strategy would be mainly that you should know the players that you're playing with as well as you can. Sometimes you can have an insight about what they're thinking if you know them well. The storyteller may also give away their card by their reactions to the ones played. So if you observe them carefully, you can also often eliminate a few cards that are being played by watching the storyteller as they're laid out. So that's just a couple of general tips that might improve your game a bit. Watch out for those things, and I think your game will go better. So with that wraps up this episode of Boards and Chords. This has been Dixit, and I'm Jonathan, your host, thanking you for joining us today. Please subscribe and tell other people about this podcast, and we'll grow the community and have a great time together. Thanks for joining us on Boards and Chords. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, or at our website at boardsandchords.com. We'll see you at the table.